Hey guys! Welcome back to my brand new channel. I'm Fanfic Lover. And today, I've got something crazy for you. What if Naruto Uzumaki, during his training journey with Jiraiya, ended up falling in love with a vampire? A forbidden love, hidden in the shadows, where danger and desire collide. Sounds insane, right? So without wasting any time, let's dive straight into Chapter 7. Smiley face. While Naruto, Shiroi, and Jiraiya were finishing the remainder of their training journey, let us take a visit to an old rival and former brother figure to the blonde. Blood-red eyes with three slowly rotating tomo were all one could see in the darkness of the room. The door to the open to the right opened, and Yukushi Kabuto stood in the doorway, giving his trademark taunting and smug smirk. The crimson Sharingan eyes glanced at the silver-haired man, before they were trained back onto the wall he had been staring at for the past several hours. Good morning, Sasuke-kun. Orochimaru-sama is requesting you. Your pet has killed another one of our subordinates, Kabuto smoothly said, taunting and smug smirk still crossing his features. Sasuke merely gave a low grunt, before he responded after several moments of silence. I told you all before. Sasuke began. I don't care what Tia does. He finished. And she isn't my pet. He snapped shortly after. He gave Kabuto a cold glare, before going back to staring at the wall. That's too bad, Sasuke-kun, because Orochimaru-sama has been thinking about cutting off all ties with her, Kabuto said, trying to get a reaction out of the Uchiha. Like I said before, what he does to her is of no concern to me, the brunette coldly stated. It had been 3 years since Sasuke's defection from Konoha. 2 years of training almost non-stop. And he was pleased with the results. For the first year, he worked on increasing his skills on ninjutsu and taijutsu. He was proud to say that his skills on ninjutsu were low-level kage, while his taijutsu was on high-level umbu. For the second year they worked on his genjutsu. He was extremely pleased to say his genjutsu skills were high-level kage, on par with Uchiha Itachi, his older brother, and the one he wants to kill most. Just thinking about Itachi caused a surge of hatred to run through his very being. He had done what Itachi said. He allowed his hatred for him to fester and grow. His hatred for Itachi knew no bounds. He wouldn't stop until Itachi was dead. And he will kill anyone who stands in his way. Especially if a certain whiskered-faced blonde tries to stop him, then he would destroy him utterly. And finally, his last year they worked on his newfound interest in kenjutsu, and he was proud to say that his kenjutsu skills were at least high-level A rank, borderline S rank. With his newfound power, he believed he was ready to finally kill Itachi. Oh. So you don't care what Orochimaru-sama does to her? Kabuto said, a small frown on his face. Orochimaru wanted Sasuke to breed with the girl after all. If they breed, then that meant more Sharingans in Orochimaru's possession. That's right. So do what you want with her, Sasuke stated as his Sharingan eyes morphed back into his normal onyx black color. Kabuto shrugged and opened his mouth to speak, only to stop and jump back as the door was slammed open, nearly hitting him in the process. Uchiha. Get off your fat lazy ass and get me some damn food, a female voice angrily demanded. Sasuke merely glared coldly at the girl who was unfazed by his glare. The girl had long dark pink hair flowing down her back. Her bangs swayed messily and narrowly into her eyes, but they didn't seem to bother her in the slightest. Two long bangs framed her face and stopped at her stomach. Her dark blue eyes were set into an angry and cold glare as she stared at the Uchiha. Her eyelashes were slightly curved, and her nose was small but a bit sharp as well. She wore a black skin-tight shirt that hugged her generous bust, and an unzipped leather jacket over it. And the final thing to her attire was the dark blue shorts she wore, with a blood-red belt around her waist that held several pouches. All in all, she was a beautiful girl. But what would really catch someone's attention were her pointed ears, and the black feathered wings on her forearms, along with the bird-like feet with razor-sharp talons she had. And her light blue skin. This girl was named Tia, and she was a harpy. Don't look at me like that, you bitch-ass Uchiha. Now get off your arse and give me some fucking food now. She sneered. Did he forget to mention that she had a bad mouth and a very dangerous temper? They met during the time when he and the Orochimaru were moving to another one of his bases. He saw her snatch and eat a wolf from the ground. When she saw him, she immediately tried killing him. She almost did too, but he managed to survive, albeit barely. However, they stopped fighting when they saw the hatred in each other's eyes. Curiosity getting the best of, he asked who she hated. She glared at him for several minutes before she replied that she hated an old friend of hers that killed her brother. She glared at him for several more minutes before she asked who he hated. He replied that he hated his older brother for murdering his entire clan. They gained an understanding that day. They weren't friends, oh, they were far from it, in fact. However, they understood each other's hatred, and as such they were able to tolerate each other, so they tolerated the other's presence. However, should they have to, they would abandon each other without any remorse. Orochimaru was fascinated with the dark pink-haired harpy, and tried to experiment on her multiple times. That is until Tia threatened to rip his crotch off with her talons. Orochimaru, if possible, paled slightly before he backed off and never tried to experiment on her again. Another thing was that every once in a while a new subordinate would make a comment about her being Sasuke's toy. Tia immediately killed them in a gory and bloody mess until nothing was left but a smear on the wall. She made it very clear that she hated Sasuke, a sentiment shared by the Uchiha. I am not going to give my breakfast, Sasuke said, making sure to keep his steaming hot breakfast in his sight. Of course, that didn't stop Tia from treating Sasuke like her slave. Bitch, you're not even eating, Tia said, a scowl working on her face. Sasuke, I twitched. Damn, she was annoying. I'm waiting for it to cool off, he coolly replied. Tia rose an eyebrow as she stared blankly at the Uchiha. You're a little pussy-ass bitch, aren't you? You can't even handle a hot breakfast. Damn, you're such a pussy. How you survived this long in the world I'll never know, she stated. She also took every chance she got to belittle the Uchiha. Sasuke twitched. Was this how Naruto felt when Sakura belittled him? If so, then his respect for the blonde went up a little. Well, I hope you're done killing our subordinates, Tia? Kabuto questioned, smirk back on his face. Tia looked at Kabuto in wonder, as if astonished to see him alive. Oh, the prissy bitch is actually all right. I was worried that your precious Orochimaru-sama had stretched your ass out too much last night, she said in a shocked tone. Sasuke took a sadistic glee when he saw Kabuto twitch. Tia had that effect on everyone. She would annoy any and everyone she met, especially Orochimaru. Heck, Sasuke thinks that she purposely irritates everyone just to get a rise out of them. What are you smirking about, bitch? Give that fucking breakfast you have there now, the harpy demanded as she whirled around at Sasuke. Sasuke twitched before he sighed in annoyance. Silently he handed his breakfast to the harpy. For some reason he lost his appetite. Tia looked at the food with glee, before she stopped and scowled towards the Uchiha and Kabuto. What? Sasuke asked, noticing the scowl, while Kabuto merely raised an eyebrow. I'm not eating in the same room as you two. So, get the fuck out, she slowly demanded, lacing her words with killing intent. Kabuto shrugged before he silently left the room and waited by the door. He knew what was to come. I'm not leaving. This is my room after all, Sasuke coldly stated. A look of rage, fury, and hatred came upon Tia's face before she growled menacingly at the dark-haired boy. Bitch, I don't care if you're the fucking king of the world. When I tell you to do something, you do it. Do you understand me, bitch? She roared, before she figure blurred, and Sasuke was suddenly thrown out the room at high speeds, and he landed face first into a wall. Next time don't fucking question me, bitch. Tia sneered, before she roughly slammed the door. Sasuke slowly stood, his entire form shaking in unrestrained fury as his Sharingan eyes glared hatefully at the door to his room. She is such a loose cannon. Kabuto muttered. Sasuke grunted, before he silently stood and slightly limped down the halls. Soon his goal. No, his ambition would become a reality. Soon he would kill Orochimaru at his weakest, and then hunt down Itachi. Soon he would avenge his clansmen. Soon all that hard work and training would finally pay off. He just had to find the perfect chance to strike. And he knew when the perfect chance would present, all he had to do was be patient. After all, patience was very rewarding. There was nothing but darkness in the cave. No amount of light could be seen, only darkness. A massive humanoid statue was in the middle of the cave with its arms held out, and its palms opened. A single figure phased into existence on one of the fingers, shortly joined by another shorter figure. The shorter one opened her orange eyes. Conan. Did you contact them? The taller asked in a deep and dead tone, as he slowly opened his silverish purple eyes with multiple rings circling the pupil. The shorter figure gave a short nod beside him, and she spoke a much softer voice confirming she was female, although her voice had an emotionless tone much like her male counterpart. Yes, Pain-sama. They will arrive shortly. She spoke. Pain merely nodded his head slightly before they began to wait for the rest of their group's arrival. They didn't have to wait long, as slowly several more figures began phasing into existence much like he did. The only thing visible about them were their eyes. Well. It's been a while since we gathered like this. It's that time already, huh? A tallest of the males asked, his beady eyes looked at all of them with mirth, as he gave them all a shark-like grin. His partner, the shorter male beside, merely opened his crimson-red eyes, while 3 spinning tomos slowly rotated across the pupils. Kisame. The crimson-eyed individual began in a emotionless drawl. We did not come here to banter. No doubt Leader-sama has called to assign us our targets. He finished. Kisame gave a mirth chuckle. Sorry, Itachi-san. It's just that I'm strangely excited. He grinned. I just want our target assigned already so I can get back to working on my art, Another spoke, his blue eyes sparkling at the thought of his art. Deidara, shut up. The longer we make this meeting, the longer my spies are forced to wait. And I do not like to keep people waiting. His hunched-back partner gruffly stated, as his eyes glared coldly at his partner. And your so-called art is nothing compared to mine. He said shortly after. Sorry about that, Sasori-dana. Deidara said, before Sasori's last sentence registered in his head. What did you say about my art? True art is a bang, not some useless puppet like the ones you create. He balefully stated. And I told you, Deidara, true art is eternal. Sasori stated in a matter-of-fact tone. Deidara bristled at the comment. Ha ha ha. You fuckers are entertaining, you know that? Another member said, his red eyes fill with amusement and an arrogant look in his eyes. Haydn, shut up. Your voice irritates me. His partner coldly stated, his green eyes with red scara looked at his partner with an apathetic glare. Though if you looked closely you would be able to see the amount of disdain he held for his partner. Hey, fuck you, Kakuzu! Haydn angrily exclaimed, as he pointed a finger at his partner. If you want to keep that finger, then I suggest you lower it, Haydn. Kazuku coldly said, his eyes narrowing icily and dangerously. Haydn merely scoffed. And what are you gonna do about it? He said with an almost manic grin on his face. I'll kill you without any remorse. The bounty hunter stated. Enough. Pain calmly stated, though there was a certain edge in his tone that everyone immediately noticed. Instantly all arguing and conversations stopped. You are here to receive your assignments. Not bicker among yourselves. Pain said, his voice carrying across the entire area. Everyone stood at attention. Everyone knew that when Pain was speaking like the way he was now, you had to listen. It was a rule, if you broke it. Well, the last person who broke that rule was killed in an extremely painful manner. Having your soul slowly ripped from your body while stabbing you with all sorts of weapons, and then bringing you back to life to repeat the process made Pain quickly feared among the Akatsuki. Haiden, Kakuzu. Do we have enough funds to assist us in our objectives? Pain asked, glancing at the bounty hunter and Jashinist. Kakuzu straightened. We have more than enough, Leader-sama. He indifferently said. Excellent. Pain replied before he turned his attention towards the Akatsuki member who hadn't spoken since the meeting. Zetsu. Tell us the information you have on the Jinchurikis. Pain ordered. Zetsu, the Akatsuki's spy, straightened now that all attention was on him now. The Ichibi Jinchuriki is now the Kazekage of Sunagakure, and rarely ever leaves the village. The Nibi Jinchuriki has been completing missions all around the Land of Lightning lately. Zetsu began, then his other half took over from there. The Sanbai is still reforming, but it won't be long now before it reforms completely. The Yonbi Jinchuriki is currently wandering the Land of Earth, while the Gobi Jinchuriki is living in a katage near the border between the Land of Earth and Fire. It will be easy to capture them both, seeing as that Tsuchikage doesn't care about them. Black Zetsu stated, before his white half took over. The Rokubi Jinchuriki is currently residing is a small castle near the border of the Land of Water and Rain. The Nanabai is residing in Takigakure for the moment. White Zetsu informed, as his black half took over the rest. The Hachibi Jinchuriki is still locked away in Kumo, so trying to capture it would prove to be difficult. And the Kyubi Jinchuriki is still with Jiraiya of the Sannin. Black Zetsu finished. Pain nodded at the spy, before he turned his attention on his subordinates. Your targets are as follow. Sasori and Deidara will head towards Suna and capture the Ichibi Jinchuriki. Kakuzu and Haiden will work on capturing the Nibi Jinchuriki. Zetsu will spy on the other nations and inform us if they plan to retaliate and take their Jinchuriki back. Pain said before he turned his attention to Kisame and Itachi. Itachi and Kisame, you will remain on standby. However, should you get the opportunity, I want you to capture the Kyubi Jinchuriki. But that is only a secondary objective, understood? Itachi and Kisame nodded at Pain's plan and course of action. Any questions? No one spoke, as they all understood their mission objectives, and they knew full well that they had to bring the Jinchuriki alive. However, that didn't mean they weren't allowed to use lethal methods if they used their Biju's chakra. Dismissed. Pain ordered. Everyone immediately phased away from existence, eager to get their assignments done. Pain and Conan remained in the darkness of the cave for what seemed like an eternity, before Pain closed his eyes and spoke. I know you are there. He calmly and emotionlessly drawled. It was silent for a few moments, before slowly a single fully mature Sharingan eye opened in the darkness. So now the hunt for the Jinchuriki begins, The figure stated. His voice was deep, rough, cold, and nonchalant as he spoke. I wonder how much the Kyubi Jinchuriki has grown. The man idly mused. You've taken an unusual interest in the Kyubi Jinchuriki. Pain muttered, before he opened his eyes, and stared indifferently at the swirling masked face of Tobi. Tobi shrugged. Can you blame me? After all, not only is he the Jinchuriki of the most powerful Biju, he is also the son of the Yondaime Hokage. Tobi explained. If anything, I expect the boy to already be a S-class shinobi. He finished. It doesn't matter. In the end he will know pain just like the rest of the world. And an era of true peace can be born. Pain declared confidence in his voice with a hint of arrogance. Fool. This world is nothing but a cruel and cold reality. There is no true peace, there is only Project Suki no Mi. Tobi thought. Do what you will, Pain. But remember, I am watching. Toby warned before he slowly vanished in a swirling vortex from his eye. After several moments of silence, Pain turned his head towards Conan. "Is something wrong, Conan?" the ring-dyed man questioned. Conan gave the area a quick scan confirming that Toby was gone before she spoke. "I don't trust that man Nagato," she answered, using his true name as they were now alone. Pain merely nodded his head at Conan's words. "Nor do I, Conan. However, his help is greatly required if we are to capture the bijou and work our way towards true peace by showing this world true pain," the Akatsuki leader declared. "And I will stand with you every step of the way, Nagato," Conan declared. Pain said nothing, he merely phased himself out of existence. Conan followed shortly after. They never noticed the black version of Zetsu melt into the wall. Shiroi contently watched as two children played eagerly in the backyard of their home. The amount of happiness on their faces were impossible to fathom. And the smile on her face was one of love and contentment. The first child, the boy, had faded whisker marks on his cheeks. Shoulder-length spiky golden blonde hair with streaks of silver in them. Bright blue eyes with twinge of pink in them and a slitted pupil. Also, if you were to look closely at the boy's grin, then you would be able to see tiny fangs in his teeth. He wore black shirt, with the Uzumaki spiral on the back. Blue shorts, and on his feet he wore red sandals. The second child, a girl, also had faded whisker marks on her cheeks. Long silvery white hair, with golden blonde streaks flowing through them. Bright pink eyes with a twinge of blue in them and a slitted pupil as well. Like her male counterpart, she too had fangs in her teeth if you were to look closely. She wore a yellow sundress, with a red Uzumaki spiral on the front of the dress. On her feet, she wore green sandals on her feet. The two children played happily together, and that made her smile. Feeling a presence behind, she turned her head. Only to meet with the face of her husband and lover. He really hadn't changed that much. His golden blonde hair was still as unkempt and spiky as the day he was born. His bright blue eyes regarded the children warmly and love. And his whiskered face was still as adorable and cute as she remembered. He didn't wear his robes today, something she was glad for, though he still had Altair in its sheath by his side. Naruto smiled at Shiroi lovingly, before he planted a kiss to her cheek. That made her flush a bit. The two children noticed and began to run towards them with their arms spread out for a hug. The children said two words that made her entire being warm up with warmth and joy. "Tu-chan. Ka-chan." Shiroi slowly opened her eyes from the pleasant and wonderful dream she was having. Though a blush worked away on her face, just thinking about the two children she saw in the dream. They were so wonderful and beautiful to look upon. Even if they didn't exist yet, they already found a special place in her heart, much like Naruto. Speaking of the blonde, she turned her gaze from the window and unto his peacefully sleeping self. His hair unkempt, and if possible even messier than it was before. His lips were set into a peaceful and content smile as he held her close to him. She blushed lightly, remembering that they were currently sleeping in the nude because of their activities last night. By Kami, the amount of stamina the blonde had was incredible. Even though they had sex nearly every night whenever they wanted to make love, or when they felt lust for each other. It still boggled her how much stamina he had. She blushed as she nearly gave a tired yawn. Again, they spent nearly the entire night being active. But it was morning now, and as such it was not proper for a lady to sleep in. Now she just had to find a way to wake up her mate. She grinned mischievously as she thought up of a way to wake. Slowly she gave a soft peck to his chest and worked her way up from there, trailing kisses along the way. She gave several pecks to his chin and lips before she moved her way to his neck. She grinned when she heard pleasurable groans coming from him. She stopped and gave a victorious smirk as she stared at the mark on his neck. It was a symbol that he belonged to her, and her alone. The mark on her own neck meant the same. She was his and his alone. And that was the way she wanted it. She gave a slight lick to his neck, right along the mark. And she grinned in glee when he unconsciously gave a small groan. Without any further debate, her fangs began to extend, and she bit down on his neck, though she kept her eyes half opened so she could see his awakening. 3 seconds later, Naruto's eyes opened. He gave a smile as he turned and gave her amusement and mirthful stare, with a great deal of love in them. "Must you wake me like this all the time? Shiroi-chan?" he whispered. Shiroi gave him a small wink, before she separated from his neck, having her fill of blood for now. "I like waking you like this, Naruto-kun," she answered. Naruto gave her an amused look, before he spoke again. "Do you have to straddle me as well, Dot?" he asked with an amused smirk, though there was a flush to his cheeks. "After all, your mate is straddling you with her naked body, while you are also in the nude. You try not getting a boner, it's impossible." Shiroi gave a small giggle. "Oh, is Naruto-kun getting a bit of morning wood?" she teased. "Well, maybe we should rectify that," she seductively whispered. She pressed her lips to his. They kissed slowly for several moments, before the kiss began to get more heated and passionate. Just as they were going to go further, a knocking sounded on their door. They both abruptly stopped and stared at the door, Naruto with a confused face, and Shiroi with a blank face, though inside her mind it was different matter entirely, as she was coming up with multiple ways to maim and brutally kill the person behind the door in the most painful and violent death possible. "Gaki! Get your ass out here, would ya?" the perverted sage known as Jiraiya exclaimed, his voice slightly muffled through the door. Naruto sighed, before he wrapped a few bed sheets around his waist and made his way towards the door. "Yes? Ero-sensei?" Naruto asked, once he opened the door, only allowing Jiraiya to see him, and not Shiroi. "Yeah, Gaki. Get your stuff together and get ready, we're going to leave soon," and he trailed off, however, when he noticed Naruto's state, or rather, the kiss marks on his lips. Combined with the slightly annoyed look the blonde was giving him, Jiraiya immediately put 2 and 2 together. "Were you and Shiroi getting ready to get active?" he leered, with a perverted expression on his face. Naruto immediately shut the door, very nearly hitting the perverted hermit in the face. Naruto waited for the shout of pain Jiraiya was bound to give, but slightly scowled when instead perverted giggling reached his ears, and it decreased in volume, though he could still hear it. He sighed before he gave Shiroi an apologetic look. "Sorry, Shiroi-chan, but it's time to leave now, so we got to get dressed," he said. Shiroi pouted for a little, before she sighed. "Fine. Let's just get dressed already," she grumbled. As they were getting dressed, Naruto thought about the last year of training he had. The last year of his training was somewhat interesting for the blonde. After 3 months of learning strategy, Jiraiya found him to be at an acceptable level, just a bit under Kakashi. Though the blonde didn't like planning before a battle. After all, if you planned before a battle, then obviously you're going to stick to it. But what if something unexpected happened? And your plan wouldn't allow adaptation? That was why he liked to plan during a battle, and come up with strategies on the fly. It was how he fought, and he wasn't changing his style. After that, to his and everyone's surprise, they found out he had a third element. To his great surprise, he had a small lightning affinity. That surprised the blonde, but he brushed off, and learned how to channel his new chakra nature. After 6 months, the blonde believed he was at an acceptable level with his new nature, with Jiraiya agreeing with him. His relationship with the Kyuubi took an interesting turn as well. The Kyuubi stated that he would allow the blonde to wield 2 tails of his chakra because he proved himself to be a competent warrior. The Kyuubi could be a sarcastic ass at times, but the blonde considered him a friend. Not to mention the Kyuubi had been with him since birth, so in a way, the Kyuubi had always been there for the blonde, despite him not knowing. Though Kyuubi appeared to have blushed, not that he couldn't tell, and claimed that it was natural for the king of all bijou to look after his subjects, even if one was human. Plus the blonde represented him, So if he died, then he would be considered a failure of a bijou for not only having a weak container, but for also allowing his container to have a disgraceful death. Naruto snorted at that. To him, the Kyuubi was a bit of a tsundere. And he was right. There were times when he would be cold to the blonde, at times when he would act like a worried mother hen looking after her child. Of course, the giant fox denied any of that. Finishing putting on his clothes and his robes, he looked himself in the mirror, making sure everything was in place. Throwing knives, check. Hidden blades, check. Robe darts, check. Crossbow, check. Pouches, check. Kunai, check. And finally Altair. Where the fuck was Altair? The blonde looked around, frantically looking around for his faithful sword. A pulse reached the blonde, and he looked over to the door's entrance to see Altair leaning against the wall. Naruto in relief, the blonde moved towards the blade and delicately picked it up. Thought I lost you for a moment there, Altair, Naruto said in a relieved tone. Altair pulsed in contentment at being in his wielder's hand once again. The blonde quickly placed Altair in its sheath, before he let it hang by his waist. The blonde checked himself over one more time, seeing everyone in order, he moved towards the door, and waited for Shiroi to finish getting dressed. He didn't have to wait long, as his fully dressed mate came from the bathroom door, and moved in front of him. Are you ready, Shiroi-chan? The blonde questioned. Shiroi gave him a short nod. Smiling, Naruto placed his hood on, before he opened the door, and the both of them exited the room and made their way down the halls and down the stairs. Reaching the downstairs, they quickly spotted the elder Toad Sage waiting patiently for them, by the exit door of the hotel with a smirk on his face. Smiling, or rather smirking, the three of them exited the hotel. It was time. Time to return to Konoha. And that's it for Chapter 7. Things are starting to get really interesting. Naruto's journey is taking a dark and unexpected turn, and this forbidden love might change everything. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next chapter. Let me know in the comments, what do you think will happen next? And should Naruto follow his heart, or walk away from this dangerous love? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay tuned.